Forgiveness is a spiritual practice, not a mental practice. We as humans, not probably any of you, but we as human beings tend to think that all we do is forgive up here and it's over and it's done. And that just simply isn't the truth. When we try to forgive from our mind, from our head, we end up in that battle of righteousness and separation from whatever it is we're trying to forgive. In the spiritual practice of forgiveness, we are not arguing for revenge or assuming the role of judge or jury through our ego. And that's a really big deal. Our condemning thoughts and our judgments are transcended when we forgive through our heart instead of our head. Connecting soul to soul with ourselves or others or a situation by acknowledging that God presence within it is the way to forgive. Not to close our eyes to it, to be open to it, to understand it. Our spiritual self, our God self, only knows acceptance, oneness, joy, and love. Because that's who we are at our core. We only want to love unconditionally. We want to experience that intimate relationship with the divine in and through all of its creation, all of it, not just particular areas. And the biggest reason that we want to experience forgiveness is because it frees us. It frees us as the forgiver. Because when we carry around that unforgiveness, we keep ourselves attached to the very thing that we're judging or we're condemning. We're holding on to it, which is exactly what we're trying to release ourselves from. We are certainly welcome to stay there if we want to. Doesn't feel very good because when we stay in that space, we're holding on to the anger, the shame, the guilt, the regret. And what happens when we hold on to that, it just becomes heavier and heavier the longer we carry it. We become so buried under the weight of our reaction to the hurt and the wrongs that we feel have been done to us, that we become paralyzed by what we're trying to separate ourselves from. We're stuck in the past, and we're missing the beauty of this moment of the here and the now. It is not possible to remain fully present when we carry all that past junk with us. Because our energy's tied up with that burden of attachment to whatever it is that didn't meet our expectations. And that's where our hurts and our resentments come from. Something didn't meet our expectations. And the truth is, the only reason there's anything to forgive in the first place is that somebody or something didn't do what we expected, and we decided they should pay for it. I mean, how silly is that, right? And that's what we do, because this is why it's silly. Who pays for it? Certainly not the other person. Certainly not a particular situation. Doesn't seem to bother them a bit. We're the one carrying it. We're the one carrying that burden. We're the ones suffering from holding on to that. And when we finally become sick and tired of being sick and tired, then we can move into that spiritual, not the mental practice of forgiveness. This is a piece excerpted from Meredith Young Sowers. Love is the emotional and spiritual energy that ties you to those who have hurt you. The issues that seem to defy forgiveness are always aligned in some way with love. The love you never received, the love that you offered and others rejected or betrayed, the love that was used to manipulate or to control you. Love is the basis of life's well-being. But in tying your spiritual energy, it reserves old hurts, and you are severely limiting the energy of love available to you in the present moment. And isn't that the truth? I think that's a very deep truth. So perhaps this is the time for us to search our heart for those that we still need to forgive. Maybe it's ourselves, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend. It doesn't matter who it is. Maybe it's the guy who ran you off the road and you're still carrying that frustration. It tends to happen a lot here in Corona, doesn't it? Anyway, that was a side note. And how long do you hold on to that, though, when somebody does that to you? How long do you hold on to it? Because I'll tell you, that guy in the other car is not thinking about you anymore. And we do. We hang on to that. So what better time than right here and right now to claim your freedom, to claim that freedom through forgiving? Not because you excuse someone else's behavior, and I think that's really an important to hear. We're not excusing anyone's behavior. It's about wanting to be happy. It's about wanting to be free and loving and wanting to be those things more than wanting to be right. Now, forgiveness a lot of times is misunderstood because what it isn't is it's not about giving in to someone's inappropriate actions. It isn't that at all. It's not condoning bad behavior or giving permission for that behavior to be repeated. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It's absolutely a sign of strength to be able to crack your heart open wide enough to love that unconditionally. And it's so essential that we understand forgiving as that spiritual practice, having it come from the mind of our heart, not the mind of our mind. The practice is actually forgiving, right? 2 words. Forgiving, the giving of compassion, of understanding, and of unconditional love, be it to ourselves or to others. Forgiveness is our job, not God's. And I want to explain that to you. What I mean by that. As human beings, we live from a place of judgment, condemnation, duality, good, bad, right, wrong, right? God only knows good. God only knows itself, that beauty, that harmony, that love, that joy, that perfection. So God has no reason to forgive, and not like we human beings do. We need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive each other so we can be happy, so we can be free, so we can experience and share that unconditional love that we truly are. Sometimes we have the illusion that forgiveness is or should be a one-time event, and then it's done and it's over with. Has anyone ever had the opportunity to experience the one-time thing? No, because I'll tell you what, I haven't. Just when you think you have forgiven, it comes up. I know that's true for me. Oh, I'm done with that because I went to here and said, I forgive you, and I'm letting it go. And now it's done, right? Until it pops right back up. That's when we're forgiving from our mind and not from our heart. Forgiveness is a process, and sometimes it's a long process. It may take more than a minute or two to work through it. That's just the truth. When the Apostle Peter from the Bible asked, how many times do I need to forgive? What was Jesus' response? You forgive up until 70 times 7. In other words, until it's done. You know that forgiveness is complete when you have that heart-opening feeling of gratitude for yourself, for the situation, for another person. wherever that forgiveness needs to go. The rules of forgiveness are designed for the mind of the heart, that place within us that is our true nature. Even though the pain is rooted in our mind, in our head. So how do we forgive? Well, we look to that spirit, that essence in each and every person, and we forgive without expecting change. Wow, doesn't that sound easy? It's a no strings attached process. And that is exactly why it takes more than 1 or 2 times to move through something that is really you have felt betrayed or hurt. We need to release and let go of that feeling of hurt. At the same time, want nothing back from this particular person or situation. That's how we become free. That's how we let go of that attachment to those hurts and what we consider wrongdoings. Again, this is not something that you will necessarily accomplish overnight. You might. I've yet to been able to do that, so let me know if you do. It takes time to invoke those qualities of patience, of loving kindness toward ourselves, toward others, maybe for a particular situation. The process takes time, and it takes an open heart and an open mind and a willingness to forgive. Now, I'm not advocating a forgive and forget process here, because we always want to remember what has occurred, and that helps us assure not to allow it to happen again. So this isn't about, oh, forgive and forget. This is about really embodying what has happened and looking at it from all sides and looking at what is my 50% in this? What can I do to feel better about this? How can I release? How can I let go? So there will be or have been times when you're going to get stuck and you can't find it in your heart to forgive. So at that point, all we can do is be willing to forgive and start the process from there. And sometimes that's enough. From that place, we can consciously create a place through which we can invoke that divine that is within us and surrender to it. And that's what this process of forgiveness is about, surrendering to the divine. When our heart softens, it opens and it allows that letting go to take place, that letting go that is so essential and so necessary so Spirit can do its work through us. We have to be open and willing to let that happen. At that point, then we can see that Christ consciousness or that Buddha in ourselves and others, and will be able to forgive 70 times 7. There's no spiritual bypass in the forgiveness process. There's no shortcut. We all get to go through that same long process. If we have feelings of rage or thoughts of revenge, they need to be acknowledged. They need to be processed, certainly not ignored. We have to take care of our emotional and our physical well-being. And by being open to those things and recognizing and processing, that's how we take care of it. It's one way we take care of ourselves. It isn't helpful on an emotional or a physical level for us to use that concept of God or of being holy or of being self-sacrificing as an excuse to gloss over our feelings of pain or our feelings of hurt. If action needs to be taken, we must honor ourselves and do whatever it is we are guided to do, however that looks, however that shows up. Another aspect, important aspect of forgiveness is taking responsibility for our part in a situation, whether we are wronged or whether we're the wrongdoer. It's important for us to release any idea of having been victimized or having been the victim. Now, some of you might not like that, but it's the truth, because on a spiritual level, there are no victims. There is only the manifestation of the one. And we need to claim and reclaim a lot of times our own power. And by being the giver of love through forgiveness, we are lifted out of that emotional prison of unforgiveness. We're moved to that plane of truth with a capital T. And then we are beholders of that truth. You'll know that that process of forgiveness is complete when you can be grateful for that person or that experience. That's not always easy, and it doesn't always come quickly. Once you're grateful for that experience or the person or situation, you'll know that you've released that burden and all the attachments that go along with it. That weight will have been lifted from you. And not that it isn't an important experience, it is, and it'll be part of who you are forever. It will be part of your personality. It would be part of your life story. It's from that place of gratitude, though, you will see the gifts that you have received from that person or situation. And the truth is this, there's always a gift, always. May not look like it for a really long time, but there is a gift through that. And that is the path that will lead you to love yourself more fully and more directly and allow you that to move forward on your life, on your soul's life journey. Forgiveness opens a really big place in our heart. It opens a wide gate. It's no longer stuck in that trunk with a lid on it and a lock. It doesn't have to be. The love that's trapped inside of you will break free, and it will dissolve the resentment or fear that has kept you in any kind of bondage. It is such a freeing experience to finally let something go that has held on to you deep within. It's when you love unconditionally that you can truly forgive. Be gentle and loving and tolerant with yourself through this process of forgiveness, because it's a one day at a time course of action. And it may take years. And that's okay. Where are you going? As long as you're aware and you keep your mind open, you'll move through that process with grace and with ease. Maybe not always ease. I'm going to close this morning with an excerpt from Ralph Waldo Emerson, whom I absolutely love his work. Finish every day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities, no doubt, have crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely, and with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. This is all that is good and fair. It is too dear with its hopes and invitations to waste a moment on yesterdays. Good advice. Thank you so much for being here while I shared this truth as I understand it.